Good evening, everyone. Oh, I can't see much of my face there. My collar was covering me. Good evening, good evening. I think we've got a few people watching us, Chdel.
Oh, great. I'm glad to hear it.
It's very good. So, there we go. We've got Carrie in Derby. Carrie runs our cuppa and chats in our hub.
Oh,
Evening, Carrie. She's very, very gentle, very well versed and very gentle. But if you're watching, do say hello. We don't bite. We're very gentle ladies here this evening. But I hope you're well, everyone. So do say hello and let us know where you're from. Tonight, I've got such a lovely treat for you. I feel like everybody's going to be therapized. That's my word. I made it up a few years ago. Everyone's going to feel quite therapized tonight and very relaxed because I've got a wonderful counsellor psychotherapist in advanced clinical training with me tonight called Chdel. Evening, Chdel. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for asking me.
We're honoured. We're absolutely honoured. I was saying to George, my colleague, beforehand, how excited I am to talk to you because not only are you amazing at all this stuff, you know, just all of it. I mean, we're going to be exploring it tonight, but also I just love your voice and I love your physical appearance. You make me feel calm.
Good. That's lovely. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you. So, Chdel, you know all too well how busy and manic parenthood can be. You've got lived experience, you've got lots of professional experience, and like me, you are loud and proud, as you said earlier, about being neurodivergent.
Yes.
And so you're just oozing empathy all the time. And so there's just no one better placed really to be talking to me tonight about the pressures of parenting and self-care. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Chdel.
Well, I am a parent of 2 adult children now, and they are both neurodivergent. I have neurodivergent nephews. I have neurodivergent cousins. I have all sorts of connection, and I was married to a neurodivergent man. And so I have a lot of lived experience. And as you say, my professional experience has also been working with people with complex needs. And so, yes, I feel that talking about how to survive the holiday and how to manage your self-care in that is something that I have a lot of lived experience for.
And I think as well, you know, you've been there, you've done it, you've got all the t-shirts, you've probably got them ripped up as well. But looking back, how you look back upon your time when you're in the zone and you're actually living that point in your life, it must be quite nice to look back on that and know that it's like different now and that you understand so much more about yourself and society and the environment and everything else. But when you look back at your probably the peak of your stress and trauma as a send parent, you know, battling the system and all the same things that we're going through, what sort of pressures were facing you that are probably likely to be facing an awful lot of people watching this evening?
Oh, yes. Well, here we are at the start of the holidays. And I think there you have the first dilemma, because a send family is not going to be like a neurotypical family. Our pressures and the things that we face are completely different. And the range and scope within that is completely different from, you know, you haven't got 2 families that are the same. And I always remember thinking back at that stage, I didn't know I was neurodiverse. And I knew that my son was, and I was beginning to suspect my daughter was, and there was no help whatsoever. I had begun using the skills that I was using professionally at home, and that really helped, and I'll share some of that in a bit. But I remember feeling like, why couldn't I make a family holiday like you see in programs and on films, and why wouldn't it work? And I remember having a struggle with a sense of disappointment and failure in myself, and also a sense of frustration and, if I may be completely honest, resentment that I couldn't step into that lovely world, you know, and it's like, phew. And I think one of the first things that was really important, and something I'd really like to talk about tonight quite a bit, is you be you. You be you, let your family be your family, and don't try and keep up with the Joneses.
Yes.
Let the Joneses be them.
Yeah.
But us in all our glory, we can be us.
And I think, you know, I remember last year I was on a radio station being interviewed about this very topic. And I said, rather than fill your diary with things that you think social media wants you to see, well, they want you, you know, to see, and what you think you need to do. Again, it's that competitiveness. And now we're all viewing it, you know, we're viewing it live, and it's quite pressurizing, isn't it? But just ease off. What do you need? What do does your family need? And one of the things that we schedule in quite a lot is downtime. So that's the one thing, because life will always just take you at a certain speed that's a little bit faster, as we've already discussed this evening, than you're able to do, particularly if you're neurodivergent, like us. You know, we've had several conversations over the last few days where I've said, Chdel, I have taken on too much. You know, I am trying to be a mum. I'm trying to keep them active. I don't want them to feel bored. I still have a really busy business to run. I'm still a wife. I'm still me. I'm still Chrissa. I'm trying to look after me, going to the gym every day and everything else. How on earth do we squeeze it all in, and why do we constantly feel the need to? And, you know, I'm very aware of these things, and I'm constantly falling into the trap of, you know, so it's really, really hard, isn't it? But a lot of the parents that we support, they're not aware of it like we are. And so they're struggling to take a breath. They're struggling, you know, they're saying self-care. You know, I'd be lucky if I have a wee on the toilet by myself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, I know that feeling. I have been there a lot. I think if you take a mental step back for a minute and imagine all the different roles that each of us hold, and if everybody at home can do the same, and imagine that you've got a whole range of canes in the ground with a plate balanced on the top, like at the circus.
Yeah.
And you have to spin that. You spin that one, and then you spin that one, then you spin that one, that one, that one, that one, and back to that one, back to that. Oh, and that's how it starts to feel, because we're trying to do an excellent job. And if you compare yourself to the Joneses, as I said earlier, you'll be looking at their perfectly curated Facebook page with their just so photos.
Yes.
And the problem with that is I've never had a just so photo in my life. It's always been ice cream smeared down the front as I've been running after someone, tripping over something and trying to organize the dog. That's what our lives are really like. And when you remember the amount of effort that you're putting into doing all these spinning up the plates, and we don't have time to produce a perfectly curated Facebook page. No. Just don't. So let it go.
Yeah.
Let it go. Yeah. And focus on what's actually important.
Absolutely.
I like to remind people that at the start of any big thing, the first step is to work out what your resources are. And your first resource is yourself.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I remember doing whenever I was facing the long summer holiday with my kids and thinking, let's hope we survive, was I would start before term ended, whenever my kids were still in school, before term ended, I would try and get myself as organized as I could. And that might mean sticking dinners in the freezer for emergency points, you know, try and think, okay, what have I got behind my hand for whenever I need to distract somebody? And I would stash things away. Silly putty, you know, that stuff, or mask making. I would stash something out of sight, ready for that we're all going to explode moment and go, haha, let's try this. And to do that, you need to start by figuring out, what do your kids like? What do you quite enjoy? Yep. And then figuring out, what do you need? And what do your kids need in the way of stimulation and repose? and build a pattern which allows you to have the stimulation and repose, and then to have stimulation and repose.
Absolutely. And we were talking earlier, weren't we, about, oh, strange enough, I think I've got a visitor. I've just had a knock at the door. Hello. 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 Hello.
Guess what?
I'm on a Facebook Live at the moment.
I just want to say,
Yeah.
I hate Barney now. She broke my glass.
Oh, there we go. You see? So it's never all perfect, guys.
Ooh.
You think, Chrissa Wadlow from Sunshine Support, she must have it all nailed. And we need to book a class. I know we need to now go and fix some glasses. So
Oh,
actually, it's not all fun and games, or well, it is fun and games, apparently. Well, you don't need glasses to sleep in, and you should be asleep. I think we've got the other person now. We're going to have a full court system here.
hello.
There we go. So I'm on a Facebook Live at the moment,
Oh, hello.
and it's just been
See the one in the
disclosed.
paper?
Oh, well, let's go with that. You're famous.
The
Let's go with-
purple.
Yes, on the purple sunshine. You
Sorry.
saw, yes. This
When
is
you put it
Chdel.
on there.
Hello.
This is Chdel. These are two of my 4 giggly girls.
Well, they're gorgeous.
It's just been announced on Facebook that you've broken some glasses. And
She stood on them by accident because she didn't know.
oh, so now we have some fibbing going on as well.
She,
So my parenting is now being scrutinized by our Facebook page. Okay, so we're going to go to sleep because you don't actually need your glasses, do you,
no,
to sleep in? So we'll sort them tomorrow.
yes.
Well,
Okay, say good night.
Bye.
bye.
Good night.
I'll just tell Marnie to tell you my eyes in.
That's great.
Uh-huh. Bye.
Oh, goodness me.
Oh, they're delightful.
Just always going to happen, wasn't it, Chanel? I don't even know where I was. I don't even know where I was.
Oh,
But
well, hey, let's move on.
let's
ADHD.
move on. Move on. Look at the glasses. Sort them tomorrow. So it's tricky. Proof. It's tricky. You're trying to do your work. You're trying to sort of squeeze everything in. And also, something we've spoken about at length on our Facebook page, send childcare almost doesn't really exist. I mean, it doesn't exist local here.
It doesn't.
So it means that you are genuinely trying to juggle absolutely everything.
Yes.
And trying to be that, person for you, then the employee, the mother, the wife, whatever, the friend, the family member. And it's blooming hard. It's impossible, actually.
It's hard. And that's why I was talking earlier about try and do things to help yourself further down the road. So stuffing things in the freezer will help you further down the road. And there's also something really important about knowing your limits.
Yeah.
Because if we think we're going to enter into the summer, as it's the longest holiday, if we think we're going to enter into the summer and do this all singing, all dancing, amazing we just crumble.
Yeah.
Absolutely crumble. So having a really clear idea about what your own resources are and what you need yourself, as well as what your kids need, is important.
Yes.
And as part of that, I was talking about knowing your resources. Resources might be, are there other SEND families that you can connect with?
Yes.
Is there anybody that you can go, okay, I'll keep your kids for half a day and we will paddle in the pool at the back or something or whatever. And you can have half a day just to sit and stare at a film or anything that you happen to want, and then see if you can reciprocate.
Yes.
If you have useful, helpful in-laws or parents, joy.
Yeah.
A lot of us don't always have understanding family members to support us. But I think, that Disney or any other thing that is something that your kids perhaps will enjoy, especially if it goes back to back to back.
Yeah.
Whenever there are times that people need to just chill out with some telly. If that's happening, that's a great time for you to be able to snuggle up on the sofa, put your arms around as many people as you can, and catch 40 winks if you.
Yes. Yes.
They can
Done that before.
too.
Mm. and connect. I don't think we realize how important connection is. And also, one of the things that we are constantly saying to the kids, rather than see the things that you can't do or you don't have, start seeing the things you can do and you do have. Because like you said, I mean, where you live is just beautiful.
It is.
And, you know, you're on the coastline, you've got walks, you've got the beach, you've got the water, and lots of different little, you know, bays and you know, different places to go. And I think, you know, I was listening to Brené Brown recently. We all love a bit of Brené Brown, don't we?
So great.
I love her. And she was saying that actually somebody was questioning her. It was on a podcast. Somebody was questioning her about faith and religion. And that she'd sort of said, you need to be anchored in that way. And she said, no, I don't mean just to a religion. And your faith doesn't have to be religious. She said, for me, anything that is related to people, I find tricky because I might find someone who's harmed me or wronged me in some way, which destroys my faith that's connected to them. So for her, it was all about nature. And she said that's what anchors her. And then, you know, she said that when she's sad, and I'm actually making that sound a bit simple, when she's feeling low, and we're all there quite constantly, up and down, aren't we? But there's always a feeling of this sort of lowness. When she's feeling low and she starts to sort of really try hard to peel back the layers of what's going on, always in the middle of that emotional onion, if you like, she will find disconnect. And that in some way she is disconnected from the people who mean a lot to her and her faith or nature. And actually, those things don't cost a penny.
They don't. And I think that's one of the things that's really important. We assume that to entertain our children all summer, it's going to cost a bomb.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely not. Recent research came out to say that the best place to feel more grounded and feel more regulated is in the green, so nature, and in the blue. And if you can get a place that has blue, being the sea or water of any description, and the green, then you are automatically in a place that's going to enhance your opportunity to relax and recoup. And the thing about connecting with people, playing simple games, and being able to play games which, I don't know, you have to know your kids and work out what's going to catch their interest. But things like, if you had £1 million, what would you do?
Yeah.
Those sorts of ideas, because then that allows people to do out of the box thinking. And really, you'd go to space? Wow, what would you make your rocket out of? Okay, fine. Well, we could try making a rocket this afternoon. How about we try baked bean cans and crispy boxes?
Yeah.
So you can have a conversation which stimulates another idea.
Yeah.
And in the process, especially of making things or building things, you don't have to always talk, but you're sharing an activity which allows people to feel safer together. And often when you're doing a physical activity with someone, even if it's a walk, but a physical activity with someone allows that person to then perhaps raise things which have been causing them a bit of a concern, something that they're not sure about, they want to check out with you. And that is often the stage where that is able to happen. Another idea that I have is make family traditions. So I'll just give you one of ours. When the kids were small, my kids didn't sleep very well. And we also had a little bit of a difficulty in that we had this enormous Christmas tree, but the lower half of it couldn't be decorated because my son would just eat whatever was there. So it was just the top bit that's decorated. But what we did was we began this thing where we would pull our mattresses from our rooms, and that's quite a chore. It requires people to help each other. And so we'd haul them in and we'd get our sleeping bags or our duvets, whatever people felt comfortable with, and we'd sleep under the tree. So you see the lights up. So there'd be the tree and all our beds and it's just sticking out, you know.
Amazing.
And that was nothing. I mean, it cost me nothing. And yet we talked about it. We looked forward to it every year. And when we did it, it was just the best.
And you know, we could be doing a lot of that outdoor stuff now. I mean, my kids, they're at least two of them are very sensory seeking. And in order to give them sort of that feedback, we've got one of those dome climbing frames.
Yeah.
So they can hang off it upside down. I mean, they're never too far from the floor. They absolutely love it. And every child who comes to our house loves it because they can get right up high or they can get right down low. But what they love is they consider that their den. Now, they don't necessarily put anything on top of it, but they put blankets underneath and they look at the stars. And it's so simple. And they make up stories and they talk about, you know, oh, I know that, you know, that constellation is this, that, and the other. And usually it's wrong, but they're having a great time exploring.
Yeah.
They're happy, you know, and it's something so simple. I know there's a lot of people who holiday in their garden. They get the tent up and they go on holiday in their garden. I remember one year we were finding it very tricky with all the send and different needs in the family. So we did almost like a seaside resort in our back garden. So we got a sand pit and a pool. They're only little, you know, nothing expensive. And then we got water bottles. And we put inside the water bottles a glow stick, and then we put them as 10-pin pins, and then we just got a football. And my husband found 2 planks of wood, just knocking about in the garage, and he painted them with a luminous paint. So they all lit up in the dark. And as soon as it went dark, we were playing, you know, 10-pin bowling in the garden. And it was crazy, but it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Another thing is, you know, water. We were talking earlier about water and how important water is. I mean, you've already said that where the green meets the blue, but you know, I don't know many children who don't just jump into a pool the minute they see.
If you got the chance, wouldn't you? I would.
Absolutely. But there's so much we could be doing with water. We don't need to have a big pool. We don't need to have a pool at all, you know, not even a paddling pool. But there's activities we can do with water. So that it's looking at those elements, isn't it? The free stuff or the very low cost stuff. I appreciate these days, nothing seems to be free. But looking at your green spaces around you, because there are always plenty of green spaces. I went to a forest school recently in Derby, and by the way, if anybody Googled Derby Forest School, it's absolutely amazing.
All the forest schools are great.
Oh, and they were making paint out of the things that they found. There was no plastic in sight. Everything was sourced. And the children, it was just second nature, literally second nature to them, in the fact that they didn't need anything. Not one of them seemed to be unhappy. You know, they were all very content, either by themselves because they chose to be, or with others, but they were connecting with nature. And it was really magical.
Absolutely. I have some suggestions for indoor stuff as well, because of course some kids just don't want to go out.
Absolutely.
Sometimes the outside is too big and it's too scary. But making bread is a really good thing because you get really good sensory feedback from the mixing, and the measuring is also really interesting because you get it just right. And then the actual sensory feedback from the kneading and the smell as the yeast is growing, and it's just great. And you can do pretty much anything. You don't have to have a nice neat loaf. You can make any kind of weird things for lunch, you know, just make buns and baps of different shapes. Fabulous. And then the other thing that we did one year, which was, I didn't think it was going to work, but it worked really well. I got double cream and I had a jam jar, so it was about that much, and I put about that much double cream in, screwed the lid on, and said, "This is the butter for your sandwich at lunch." And they went, "What?" And of course, if you shake and shake and shake and shake and shake, after a while there's a clunk and butter starts to form, and you have to keep shaking it, and then the cream that forms into the whey and the curds, then you can drain off the liquid stuff, and what's left, pop it in the fridge for half an hour. You've now got your bread that you made this morning, and you've got your butter.
Yes.
And it's like magic. It takes a long time, But my kids used to be like, well, this is worth doing. It's great fun and it tastes wonderful.
Yes. And that brings me on to another point. Food. You know, it's an ongoing joke that children, when they go to school, they have breakfast, then they'll have their snack, their lunch, and they come home and have their dinner. But when they're on holiday, they have about 5,042 snacks a day. They're constantly on the prowl for food. But again, getting them involved in doing food, making food.
Absolutely. Bake, make, peel, chop. And you can do a huge amount of art with vegetables.
Yes.
So if you've got a kid that doesn't much like vegetables, using a vegetable in another way can begin to desensitize that dislike of the thing, whatever it is. And you can use a carrot and you can actually use it like a big, I mean, you have to dip it in paint, but then you can use it like a big crayon or a marker, or make stabbing motions and it makes big dots.
Yeah.
All sorts of things. The amount of stuff that you can just do, which is normal routine stuff, can be huge. I used to do this thing with my kids in that this was during the term time, whenever they would stay up too late and I'd be going, no, really, you need to be in bed. And I think I'd got them there, but then they'd come back again. And I began doing this thing going, this is terrific. That's wonderful. I'm so glad you're up. I need help to clean the skirting boards.
My husband does that.
Yes. And we would clean skirting boards until they got bored and then they went back to bed. My son, my darling, beautiful son, came down one night and said, Mom, I'm really worried about you working so late cleaning skirting boards. I've come to help you.
I love it. I love it. I love it. But you know,
stuff you can do.
The mundane tasks, though, they're often quite good for sleeping. My husband will often say, oh, I've washed and dried the washing and I have all your pants. So I'd like you to fold them very neatly. And all of a sudden it's either, yeah, that's really boring, I'm going to bed, or it's quite therapeutic. You can see their little eyes sort of start to drift, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it is quite lovely. But so, Chdel, coming back then, let's forget the kids for a minute. Let's forget the kids.
Okay.
So, parenting. So we've got parents, and in fact, I'll talk from personal experience because I think a lot of people can relate. So last week was my first full week of the summer holidays. I also know that I like to go to the gym every day to stay well, and I tend to go between 6 and 7 in the morning, nice and early, get it out of the way, and it doesn't impact my day. I also run a team. There's 10 of us, so it's nice and busy. And with the nature of what we do, there's always a crisis thing that pops up, maybe a safeguarding incident or, you know, whatever, an emergency that we can never quite predict. And people always have a go at me, and I don't like it at all. I do work 80 plus hours a week, but I really enjoy it. So I find it very stressful when people tell me not to. Like, my husband doesn't tell me not to because he knows that's what I get off on. He's like, I enjoy my life. But so there's, you know, let's just say a normal week, a 40-hour week, plus 3 children who are little or under 10. Then you've got, you know, you're trying to do a few little clubs with them to make sure that you're connecting with them and everything else. We have our brand new hub that's opened, which is taking up an awful lot of my time. It's beautiful and I absolutely love it, but there's no denying it takes up an awful lot of my time. And then, of course, there is other stuff that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one night where I finished my work, then got a call. And my colleagues had come up from down south, and I thought, oh, it'd be lovely to see them and connect, because connection is very important. So I went over and I saw them at their hotel. They were working at our office the following day. Beautiful. We had a great time. I had every intention of coming home, going to bed, but a crisis happened at work, which kept me up another 4 hours. So I was working until 2:30 in the morning. And I thought, that's okay. I'm going to miss my gym in the morning. That is the sacrifice I'm going to give in order to sleep, because I do have health problems. So that's fine. And at 6:10, my phone is ringing. And of course, I'd been in bed from 20 to 3. My phone is ringing. Hello, love. It's Argos. Other places are available. It's Argos, and we have some chairs that we're delivering to your Sunshine Hub. I thought, oh, yeah. And he said, could you be up here within 20 minutes? Sure. So I got in the car and of course I'm like, coffee, oh, getting up there. And then my day started again. And that was another day where I didn't finish work until 10:30. And it got to I think that was the day we were meant to do this Facebook Live, actually. It was Wednesday. And one of my children was starting to, not one of the ones you've seen, another one. She was really starting to, well, she was very dysregulated, struggling with the difficulty from coming out of a nice structured school pattern, which she adores. She absolutely loves school, to then being in this sort of mess where she's like, well, I need to come down and regulate and decompress and what have you. But now I've lost all ability to look after myself. And she was all over the place, bless her. And the two of us together, I thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to really work hard here to look after me, in order to look after her. Because if I'm putting her first, I have to put me first.
Yes.
I can't put her first. I can't put her first. And one of the big things with parents, and I have lots of friends that come to me and they've got this sort of martyrship, and I will always say to them, stop being a martyr, because you are not helping anyone. You have to put you first. So let's forget the kids. Let's chuck them out the way for a minute. What can we be doing that is manageable to look after us and recognize the signs? I appreciate I've asked two questions there. First of all, we need to recognize the signs, don't we? And then what can we do?
Well, first of all, as I said earlier, you are your first and best resource. You fall over, everybody falls over. So yes, you are the first resource. And to be honest, nobody really wants to contribute or help to a martyr, because martyrs are exhausting. So be exhausting and are exhausting. So just try and lose that attitude too. It is important to be able to ask for your needs to be met. But before you can ask, you need to figure out what they are. So what I would like to encourage everybody to do is to start with really basic things. So the ground level entry stuff that you have to do is drink more water, eat as wide a nutritious diet as you're able to do. If you can organize your sleep, organize your sleep. Now, the description that you were giving me was just like crazy, crazy, crazy. But I'm sure that every day is not like that. You do sleep, I assume. So when you can sleep, do sleep. And the thing about sleep, which is very interesting, is that in the morning, something cold helps your brain to go. So if you can get a cold swim in the morning, great. But at night, it's the opposite. A warm something helps you sleep. So if you've got a trouble with sleeping, try and build a routine for yourself that allows you to perhaps, if you can swim, great. But if not, maybe a cold shower in the morning, a cool shower. Cold might be unkind. And in the evening, you might want to think about a warm drink, wearing something snuggly and warm. And if you're able to also have a warm bath before or after all that, great. It signals to your brain it's time to wind down. The next layer on top of that is, as I said earlier, check what resources you've got and check what your needs are. Because if you, like me, need to have time when you are quiet, when you don't have to connect with other people, then you're going to have to figure out what part of your day do you get that.
Yes.
Because we can't rely on the school day any longer to have a point during the day where we might get that.
No.
So therefore, it might mean that you have to get up before everybody else to have that first hot drink by yourself. Or it might mean that once you've wrangled everybody and you've managed to get them into bed, that you sit outside under the stars and just take half an hour to ground yourself.
Yeah.
The other thing that I find useful is, as I said, the planning. Because if you can plan, part of the planning is not so that you can do more, do it faster, do it fuller. The planning is so that you don't have to push so hard, that you don't have to move so fast. The planning is to be a resource to you to be able to actually go, do you know what? Tonight I'm going to fling a pizza in the oven and hey, it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Whatever works for you on that occasion. The other thing that I think is important is that bit of forward planning in how you use your language. So how you use your language when you're talking about yourself is really important. Don't go, I'm so this, and fill in a bad description of yourself. your self-talk is extremely important. Your self-talk is what your brain hears. So you're saying it as your brain hears it. It's like a double message.
Yeah.
And the way that works then is if I go, do you know what? I'm doing okay. This is a good day. I'm doing okay. We're going to make bedtime with everybody alive and healthy. And so what if they're not clean? Hey!
Yes.
And that is great. Look for the positives. Praise yourself as well as praising those people around you. Say thank you to the ether. Say thank you to anybody who's helped you today. And by building a culture of thank you in your family, you'll find they'll start to thank you back. And when you get thanked back and you feel appreciated, it helps regulate that anxiety. And it also helps you know, do you know what? I'm doing okay. I may not be up with the Joneses, but I'm doing okay.
Yes.
And that's really important, really important. So basic self-care. And then I'd like to give you one skill. So if everyone is game, I would really like you to think about doing this with me. The purpose of it is this is very simple breathing, but we have a lot of information from neuroscience, and polyvagal theory teaches us that if we have ventral vagal, which is the nice sweet spot where we want to stay.
Yeah.
Something happens that causes us to feel distressed and we slip down into sympathetic. If we're very distressed, we go down into dorsal. But to get back from this distressed fight, flight, freeze, fawn state, one of the most simple things that we can do is to breathe in a particular way. So the way we do it is we breathe in through the nose, hold it, and then out through the mouth. But you have to pucker up. That's it. That's beautiful. So when you're starting to feel anxious, when somebody is hassling you, when you need to come up with a decision, when, whatever it is, when somebody's just posted fish fingers into your toaster, DVD player, you know, I mean, back in the day with the DVD players, I mean, it can't happen now, obviously, but fish fingers in the DVD slot, that's something I knew about. Great.
Yeah. Yeah.
5 good breaths can save someone's life.
I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it.
Let's do it together though. Come on, let's do it together. We'll only do 2 just so that, you know, we have a chance, but breathe in through the nose. Hold it. And again. Yeah, it's proper science. It's not, you know, hippie heebie-jeebie stuff. It's proper science. Yeah. So on the out breath, that's where the magic happens. It's where you begin to raise back up to your ventral vagal and life will feel a bit better. But it's like if you fall in the sea, you don't want to have to learn to swim then. You want to learn to swim 6 months ago. So every time you put the kettle on, do 3 good breaths, even if you don't need it. And then your body starts to know what's happening. And then when you need it, and you have to go,
yeah.
That is the point which your body goes, oh, we're doing that thing. I like it.
Yes.
And you will recover quicker.
Yes. And I just wanted, you probably saw me fidgeting then. Yeah. I've got my
oh hey.
So I always come onto Facebook Live and share this. So you can get this on Amazon. It's laminated autonomic nervous system. It's the regulation tool. So basically what to look for. So exactly everything you've just said there, where you've got your very healthy stages here of where you want to be. You don't want to be down here. You certainly don't want to be up here. Your body really does think it's shutting down there. But this, I find this is a really good tool as well for if my kids are struggling, or they might be kicking off. Let's just call it for what it is. They could be kicking off at each other, particularly 2 of them who are very similar. Those 2 who are always at each other's throats, not literally for the social workers watching. But I sometimes look at this and go, okay, quickly, because sometimes you lose the ability to think yourself, don't you? And I think, okay, what have I got to do? put on brakes. Okay, let's separate them up for a second. Let's, divide and conquer, as my husband always says. And we'll get them doing activities separately. I can hear noise creeping towards the door now. But I think that's a really good tool. Another one that I absolutely love, and I can't remember where I saw this. However, we both know, we're both very good friends with Kathy Long.
Yes.
And Kathy Long is obviously on our wavelength, and we absolutely love her to bits. And she's she's probably talked to you about her Sensate.
Oh, it's fantastic.
So lovely. It's like a little pebble that connects to your phone, and it's on a chain, isn't it? And you can put it right at the top of your diaphragm, lay down, put it on it. It vibrates to the same part of the music. So there's basically some music that plays through the app. It vibrates, but it tones the vagal nerve. Now, the vagus nerve. Now, we know from studying the polyvagal theory and understanding the vagus nerve, and it absolutely controls everything, so we think that we've got our spinal column, absolutely very important. We've got our obviously our nervous system, our circulatory system, our digestive system, all these important parts of our body that makes us who we are. But the vagus nerve has the power to just destroy all of them and cause pain and stop them from working or make them work overtime. And we know, because we see people with physical pain and what's the word I'm looking for? Because I've got it. The words got out of my brain, but things like Crohn's disease, eczema. What's the word I'm looking for?
Autoimmune conditions.
Autoimmune. It's because I've got autonomic in front of me, you see. It's late. And so there was another one that I was telling Kathy about recently. And again, I can't remember where I found this, but I practice it daily. And oh my goodness, it's made a difference to my anxiety levels. Not that I'm a particularly anxious person these days anyway, but it really helps with situations, particularly where you can hear kids fighting behind you. So I like water. I like to have a bath every day. Like we mentioned earlier, I'm in Derbyshire, so there's no seasides or anything, but I like to have a bath every day. And what I do is voo. Have you done the voo?
Ooh.
So dig
whenever you make the noise of voo. Yes.
Yeah, and you do it in a very deep voice.
Yes.
In exactly the same way. So you deep breath in, and then you go voo.
Yes.
You do it for as long as you possibly can without making yourself unwell, of course. But I urge people to do it and feel the rush to your brain. It's like there's nothing. You're not putting anything into your body. You're just treating it with respect. And that toning of the vagus nerve is just beautiful. But again, it's all the same thing, isn't it? We tone other parts of our body. We say, must eat fruit and veg. We must get a bit of exercise every day. We must drink water. We say all these things to ourselves, but we don't tone the most important part of our body, which is controlling everything else. So these things are so important, aren't they, for self-regulation?
They are. I mean, the sensei, which you were talking about, it gives these, I don't know if you can see me, but because of the way it sits, it gives you lovely vibrations in your chest cavity.
Yes.
And that is the same with the voo.
Yes.
And the breathing out to say voo is the same idea as the breathing out, and the breathing out is the same. All those things allow feedback to the body, which is beautiful and really helpful. And I think there's something else that I forgot to mention earlier, but it's just such a simple thing, like drinking water. Well done, exhibit A. But make sure you get time to get to the loo, because when you have kids around, there's somebody wanting this, and then there's somebody wanting that, and then you've got to, I've got to put the oven on, and then there's the ringing of the phone. And it's amazing how many hours go by before you've had a chance to pop to the loo.
Yes.
It's really bad for you, really bad for you. So being able to say to your family, time out, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Do anything you like for 5 minutes. I am just stepping to the bathroom.
Yeah.
That's important. I also remember something else I wanted to mention earlier, which I forgot, and that is that when we're in the holiday mode, the lovely structure has changed from the term time, and that can cause a lot of problems for a lot of people, including parents. They don't necessarily want this new structure. And so if you are going to be changing the structure, it's a great idea to use your words again to be able to go, just for this holiday period, you can stay up to X, but
Yeah.
when term starts, we'll go back to Y.
Yes.
So that the people that you're living with, the kids, whoever you've got with you, can hear in advance, this is an unusual situation.
Yes.
So at the end of the holiday, you're going some way to ameliorate that kickback from having to restart the structure of going back to school.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it is all setting expectations, isn't it? For
Setting
you and for them.
Yes.
It really is. I'm going to have a quick look at the comments actually and see what
Sure.
we've got coming in. Oh, George is on our comments tonight. He's very kindly put the link to that laminated sheet.
Oh,
Carly says, so Carly comes to lots of our cuppa and chat. Carly says she's so rubbish at self-care. However, Carly, are you telling yourself that? Because actually you come to our cuppa and chat religiously every other week.
oh, that's
That
good.
is self-care.
Yes.
So again, reframe the way you're thinking about self-care. And like Chdel said, you know, change the language, because I know that just from knowing Kathy Long, we will be thinking in the same way that when we hear someone talking negatively like that about themselves, one of the questions we tend to ask is, who is saying it? Is it you?
Yes.
Where is that critical voice? Where's that sort of critical parent coming from? Is it coming from you, or is it somebody that's constantly drip fed that through your life?
Yeah.
And one of the most liberating things I found in my own therapy was being able to say, I recognize this voice. It's not
Right.
mine. Thank you for your input, but it's not needed right now. And then go forward, because actually that imposter syndrome does tend to lift. It does lift, and we have a lot of imposter syndrome as parents.
And if there's any blame, we mop it up.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Jane says she always felt bad about saying no thanks to certain activities with parents of neurotypical kids. And yeah, you get the invite and you think, oh God, my kids are just not going to cope with that.
Yeah.
And so you've just got to own it. It's so sad, but you've got to do what's right for the kids, haven't you? It's so easy to go along with these things, but it just ends up then just being something you're doing for the sake of somebody else rather than for your kids, you know?
And again, the language in that is important. Rather than saying, oh, no, we can't do that, or that won't work for my kids. You can change it and say, actually, we've got a plan that week, so I'm sorry we can't take part. I hope you have a great time, though.
Yes. Because your plan could be downtime, and that's very, very important to your family.
It is.
And actually, you know, when I talk about this, even with neurotypical families, often they say to me, do you know what? I feel quite liberated. I feel quite relaxed with you, Chrissa, because we can just do that. We can just do the chilled out thing. We don't have to go to Legoland and go to Peppa Pig World and go to Alton Towers and then book a holiday down to Cornwall because it looks nice, and then try and get on a ship somewhere and then try and book a Disney. Don't worry about it. How much money is that costing you as well? And you know it's going to fall apart. You know, the amount of people who say, I always find it quite alarming. Oh, we want to go to Disney or wherever. We're going to have to medicate our kids. I think the answer's right there. They might not be able to tolerate that. But, you know, be honest with yourself, like you said, and be honest about your needs and be honest with your kids' needs. And also, you know, I am not a fan of one of the terms that I see spread around social media quite a lot, which is that I will do anything for my kids, including putting my life on hold. Actually, no, it has to be something quite authentic, organic. Otherwise, you're just going to end up resenting your kids, and then they'll resent you because you're making them feel guilty. You know, just live your life. The chances are what you enjoy, your kids enjoy. You know, it does get passed down, doesn't it? But just be honest. And I think when you're setting those expectations, honesty is the best policy, isn't it?
It is. And communication is key, and using the language of, encouraging and good affirmations of your kids. You know, I used to thank my kids in advance before we did something.
Yeah.
I would say, I'm really looking forward to going to wherever. I just want to say thank you in advance, because I know that you're going to bring your best self. And I love being with you no matter what it's going to be like. But you know, your best self is always fab. And I know we're going to have fun, and I know you're going to be a great help. And I'm just saying thank you now, just in case something happens and I forget later, but just thank you now. And they would glow.
Yes.
And I framed it really well.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would do is I would give jobs. So, for example, if you're going somewhere and you're going to take a picnic, well, everybody's going to want something different, obviously. And especially if you're in a send family, you probably have people who might be quirky eaters in that. Well, either they can make something that everybody can then have during lunch, in which case that's their speciality, or they can make something individual for themselves. But we used to have the table in our kitchen and everything would be out on it, and it'd be like a little production line going of what we were doing and how it was going to be. And then it'd be packed up and off we go. And then it'd be somebody would be opening their tinfoil packet or their box of whatever and going, I made these. I hard-boiled these eggs.
They're really proud.
Really
Love
proud.
it.
And that's great. I mean, hard-boiling eggs, fabulous. That's great. And yet it's been the activity that you've done beforehand. Then you have the pleasure of getting there. Then everybody compliments each other. I know it all sounds a bit lovely, but if you can get it, then it's great. On the days when you're actually throwing hard-boiled eggs at each other, it's not so great.
We've all been there.
But if you can create a culture where people appreciate what each other has done, hooray.
Yeah,
That's
Absolutely.
lovely. And
absolutely.
we just have to live with what we've got.
Absolutely. And I must say, you know, for those watching, Chdel, you are, I'm going to try and get this right now, a counsellor psychotherapist in advanced clinical training.
Ooh, 10 points.
Yes. And you provide an awful lot of support to those who perhaps identify as being autistic or having ADHD or have a diagnosis. And also, what I find fascinating, and we'll post a link to your website in a sec. What I find fascinating, I love reading your website because it actually makes me calm. Like it does exactly what you want it to do.
Good.
It's so well put together. But I love the fact that you are very interested in partnerships, not just marriages and sort of relationships and lifelong partners, that sort of thing, but business partnerships and other ways that two people come together to create something.
Well, that's the couples therapy. A couples therapy is interesting because people always assume that it's only romantic couples, but it's not. It's anybody. Parent and adult child, two siblings, your next door neighbor, your best friend, and you. It's any twosome that is joined for whatever reason, business, pleasure, function of some description. Any twosome can have issues every now and again with their communication, where their expectations of each other aren't quite clear, or something has happened and both see it from a different point of view and both think that theirs is the definitive answer. So that's what the couples work is. And individual work, I work a lot with people who are either considering whether they're going to go forward for a diagnosis or who have received a diagnosis and they're now going, what does this mean? So I help people look at that. And I help marriages where perhaps one or both parties are neurodiverse or, long-term life partners. I also like to try and encourage people to think about any major decisions that they're making in their lives, like whether to move to Australia, whether to encourage Granny to come and live with us, whatever, whether to go and give up on the school system and embrace home education. Whatever big decision is happening, then that twosome, because it's not always a couple, it can be situations where like two single mothers have joined together to be able to join forces to raise their family, whatever that is. And it may not be in anything like a sexual or romantic thing. It could be just straight two friends. But whenever you're making a huge decision that is going to change the way things are, I strongly would encourage anyone to step into therapy and have help to work through the process of what are our expectations, what's the unwritten thing that we haven't discussed yet, what is the underlying message that we're both making assumptions, but the two assumptions are different.
And I think we get a lot of that with send parenting, you know,
Mhm.
whether the parents are together or not. We've got an awful lot of cases at the moment where they're not seeing the same child. So they're really struggling to find the right provision for the child. And there's an awful lot of arguments. And this can come from a couple that, like I said, lives together and perhaps they're married or are separated. And so there is a little bit of extra friction there. But also, we've got a webinar tomorrow night actually on mental capacity, and Kathy's going to be delivering that. And what we also find is when that child is approaching that age, sort of 14 upwards,
Yes.
and they do, of course, they have a right to say and feel and have views over what happens to their life. But it's really tricky, even with children without SEND, to make them see what their future, how that decision that they make will impact their future. But it's trickier when they have a type of SEND, particularly if it's a communication-based difficulty. And so actually, yeah, I mean, I would say that, in hindsight, I would have absolutely loved something like that. And I think it's
would
so important to get this sort of thing out there, to normalize it and say, actually, it doesn't have to be forever. Like you said, it could be just over one decision or one process, or if you're going through the tribunal or court system, FII is another thing we're going to be doing more work on together. All of those things, because big decisions have the potential to traumatize, don't they?
They can. And also, people need to know where they're coming from, which sounds really obvious, but we're motivated by things, and a lot of those things that motivate us are actually outside of our awareness. So sometimes what we need to do is take a step back, work out where are we coming from, and then understand why we feel about this situation here and now. And then from that, we're able to make a conversation about, okay, what then is best for our child?
Yes.
I tend to not work with people who are under 17. So really it's about helping parents or siblings or people like that to be able to support a SEND child.
And I think, again, and I know that there's a couple of names that have popped up in Who's Viewing, where they have adult children with SEND that has proven to be quite tricky. Carly's just said, does Sunshine Support offer advice to couples for their relationship when parenting a SEND child? We definitely don't, because we're not therapists, but Chdel definitely probably would. Would you be able to support a parents who perhaps are seeing things from different perspectives?
Yes, I was asked by a solicitor not long ago. They were saying that the thing that they really wanted access to was to be able to help a couple who were not able to agree on anything else to be able to agree on the offering as parents to their children. And I think that transposes into any situation. As parents, that's our first job.
Yeah.
Our first job is, how do we interact with our children to set our children up for the future, to enable them to reach adulthood and to be able to make informed decisions for their lives.
Yeah.
So that's, yes.
And sort of as we come into the end, I said, didn't I? It would go really quickly. How quickly has that gone? We actually have Kathy Long watching us.
Hey, hello.
How are you? Evening, Kathy, the Mary Poppins of social work. So it's been a delight. We could talk for hours, because I know that with the way that our brains work, we'll find another little nugget there and another little nugget there, and we'll just keep talking. But this isn't the last you'll see of Chdel, because we're going to be doing tons more work together. But I must say, I've put a link to your website in the comments.
Thank you very much.
Chdel's website is free to be me, so it's f2bm.co.uk. That's right, isn't it?
No, it's no co. It's just .uk. So Chdel at f2bm.uk.
.uk.
So the website is f2bm.uk.
I've
And
just
it
posted
stands
it.
for Free to Be Me.
Perfect, I've got it now. It's actually come up. I think it came up both times, which is quite
It
good.
is.
But do have a look at Chdel's website. You'll be able to see the type of things that she absolutely loves to practice in. And well, like I said, I just read the website and felt it. So and I feel it through the airwaves talking to you. So, you know, if you're looking for therapy, if you're looking for like everything that we've talked about tonight, this sort of dispute resolution, and to create some emotional regulation between parties, then, you know, contact Chdel. And if for whatever reason you can't, you know, find the link or whatever, just send us a message and we'll absolutely help you. But Chdel, it's been an absolute delight. I have loved every minute of it.
I've enjoyed myself hugely. Thanks so much for asking me to come on.
Well, you'll just keep getting invites now. You'll be saying,
Hey.
"Oh, blooming Chrissa Wadlow, she keeps inviting me back."
I know. I'll say yes. That'll be lovely. Thank you.
Good. Well, I'll see you very soon, I'm sure.
I look forward to it. Thank you very much.
Good night.
Good night. Bye.
Bye.